Hey guys, welcome to episode 50 of The Green Life. Today's episode is not only a milestone for The Green Life, but it's also a great episode to talk about an app called Silatha, which is an app created by women for women. And I have the founder here, Veroniek Vermeulen, who's going to talk about the progression of this app from meditation to HR support. So before getting into the details of the episode, a quick shout out to Namawell for the J2 Juicer. You know I love this machine, so if you want to get yourself one too, go into the show notes and grab my code for 10% off. Also, I have this amazing retreat coming up in Portugal, and I really cannot recommend it enough. Not only because I really curated the details of this retreat to be the best ever luxury holiday with a health element to it, but it's also a beautiful place. You're gonna see the nature, you're gonna stay in a palace. I mean, it's got the works. If you go into the show notes, I have the link to my website there and you can see all the details. If you have any question, just get in touch with me. If you mention The Green Life, 10% off. All right, back to the show. We're going to talk about Silatha, which is a beautiful app I started using years ago when it came out, and it's all about meditations, mostly for women. And now it's evolved into support for HR, to support women also in the workplace, to educate women and men about the different stages that women go through, such as pregnancy or menopause. So it's a beautiful, beautiful tool to not discriminate against women in the workplace. Okay, without further ado, let's get into this conversation. Welcome, Veronique. Hi, Veronique. Thank you so much for joining The Green Life today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. A little tired, but doing okay. And I'm very, very excited about this interview because I am really behind everything that you stand for. And I'm really excited that people will get to know it, especially women. So I'm sorry, gents, for today is mostly focused on women, but we are really going to talk about a project that has been in the making for a long time, and you really built it from scratch. So this is like your baby, right? But before we talk about Silatha, let's just give everyone a little background about you, where you come from, and why you even started this project.
Yes, sure. And I think for men, it's also super interesting because I think that's what we try to do, is to open up these taboos. And so for guys, it's kind of like, really? I didn't know. So I hope it's interesting for everyone. So yeah, a little bit about me. I'm an engineer from background, worked very long in marketing and fast-moving consumer goods. And it's about 10 years ago already that there was this moment in my life when I realized that I kind of did what everyone was expecting from me. I lived my life according to society rules, like what makes you successful, what makes you a great person. And so I kind of ticked all those boxes and looked at my life and was like, but this is not what makes me happy. Like, I'm not happy. And that set me on a journey where now 10 years later, I'm still on my journey, but learned a lot. And it brought me in first instance to Nepal, where I got in contact with meditation. And meditation really changed my life. Being an engineer and always having that head going like, how does it work? I need to understand it. It helped me to look at life in a different way and live life in a different way. And that's been very powerful for me in how I now do the things I do, the choices I make, and how I live my life.
Amazing. And so that's 10 years ago, and you were in Nepal and you started meditating. And how did you translate that experience that took you from your personal awakening, I guess, leaving probably your marketing job, into, creating Silatha?
Yes, it's been a journey. So it really started with how meditation has helped me. And I was like, oh my God, this should be something for everyone. And this is not 10 years ago. It was way, way later. But it was kind of the spark, what started Silatha, to really help women, especially with the specific life stages. How can meditation and support during menopause, during fertility journeys, during postnatal depression, when you are a leader in business. So how can we really support women in different stages in her life? And we started with meditation, but then it grew further because we realized there's so much around it, and women are very strong when you bring them together. So we added this element of peer-to-peer support of women, for example, menopause, like women that go through the menopause, and then 25 women are then together in a group, and we coach them on several elements, and really to start to feel better in their lives, to have every month a workshop on something that's relevant for them, setting boundaries, limiting beliefs. It depends really on the topic, what the topic of the workshop is, but they do it together. And the first is always to bond and to share their stories, and to recognize I'm not the only one. There's actually so many other women that go through the same. But if you don't know them, you can feel very alone, and you can feel, oh my God, I don't know who I am anymore. What's happening to me? But then you realize it's a very natural process. And so women who have that same life challenge sometimes do experience similar things. And so having that connection is very powerful. And so they then can also stay connected on the app. In the example of menopause, you might be awake at night because you can't sleep. You go to the app and see who else is awake, who else is there. Wow. To support you and say, hey, yes, I'm awake too. And you make some jokes, and it can calm you down to actually go back to sleep. And of course, the meditations are there, or, for example, to easier fall asleep. So we created these private rooms within the app where the group of women can really support each other, can bond, can motivate each other, where we have the meditations, where we do meditation challenges. So they get really motivated to keep going and motivate each other, because together it's always better than doing it alone. And then we have webinars to further help them on their journey. So that's really what we do for women. And then we also realized, because we focus on businesses, and we realized that it's really strong to help women and to create these safe communities within the workplace. But if you do not educate the rest of the employees, the men and women who have the women in their team, if they don't understand what might be going on in their life, it's not complete. We can't really change the culture. And so what we added to our concept is really that we give awareness training to men and women in the company, to give them an idea. What is PMS? What is endometriosis? What does it mean if you go through postnatal depression? What does it mean to lose a baby, and to lose the baby 3 times? What does it mean when you go through menopause or a fertility journey? So really shining a light on these very female realities, but that are very much taboos. And so often, if you are not surrounded and very close with someone who's going through that, you have no idea. And so giving that knowledge and helping them to be a better mentor to their team, to be a better manager, and understand how can I be there for her? How can I recognize it earlier? How can I support her to speak up? And if she speaks up, what do I say? And what do I not say? Like, there's also certain things like, just stay away from that. And it's just little tricks that we help them, and we see that's very powerful to create an organization that is fully more committed to women and to the reality that women bring, because we created a workplace when there were only men working. And so it was created with cigars and whiskey. That time is totally past, but there's still a lot of rules that are unwritten rules that we didn't change. And that needs to happen, because we see right now in companies, for every 2 women leaders that are getting, every 1 woman that gets promoted, a woman leader, there's 2 women leaders leaving the company. So there's a huge amount of women who are saying, like, if you don't create a inclusive environment where I feel safe, where I feel I can be myself and really bring my whole self to work, I'm out of here. And that costs the company a lot of money. And so that's, and it's also in different aspects. If you look at the productivity of women, when you go through a fertility process, when you're going through menopause and you don't get the right support, your head might not always be with the work that you want to do. So giving that support and bringing that support community within the company will make her more productive, will make her more engaged, will in the end make that she actually stays in the company, which will save you from the cost to recruit someone else and train someone else and all that what comes with it. So I think it's really important that we can slowly change that whole idea of, oh, we can't talk about menstruation, oh, we can't talk about, we're making jokes about a hot flush. Well, hot flush is only a very small part of menopause, and they created this menopause fest in the UK. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No.
It's it imitates a hot flush. And I think it's brilliant because it gave it to men to experience what it is to have a hot flush. And if you could actually still be in a meeting, be productive and be focused and efficient. And I think the moment when you can experience what it actually physically means and how you will not be able to concentrate at that moment, you will create understanding and people will be like, oh, okay, this is not a thing to make jokes about. This is actually very real, and it's a serious thing, and we should
it can be
support
debilitating.
each other.
I think you nailed it there, where they nailed it when they did this experiment, because it's it's well known that you only understand something once you experience it. Otherwise, you can know it, but that doesn't mean you actually understand it. So it's powerful, because I think for the longest time, PMS was made a joke of, and even if a woman is having a bad day, it's like, oh, you're PMS. That's just, the mood is one of the things, but like there's so much more to everything that we experience hormonally that men sadly don't understand. Women don't even understand, because we never really been taught at school. I mean, those are the things that they should teach in school. Your body is going to go through changes. For the love of God, like, you have teenagers in school who are experiencing puberty and they don't know what to do, right? Yes. It's like it's traumatic.
It is, and it's just so shocking if you look at how little knowledge there is around the women's body, and how little, like, we just have assumed, like, oh, well, the woman is just a small version of a man. Well, it's not in any way. And I know you know all about the hormones and how that is changing. And I think when we start to understand how hormones over the life cycle of a woman are changing, a woman is very predictable, and we can very clearly say, this is what will happen when you get into puberty. And it's not, also every woman is different, but this is what can happen. These are symptoms. If you have, for example, endometriosis, 10% of all women have it. It takes years and years and years, into 27, 35 years before they actually realize what it is. And then this can finally be solved. But because we don't talk about it, because there's so little knowledge, a lot of women just keep going on, and they've been told, just toughen up, just go through it. It's fine. It's part of the deal. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not fine. This is kind of like, some women have every month a heart attack, or something that is as painful as a heart attack. You don't say someone having a heart attack, like, just
go through it.
Used to it. Yeah, go through it. I was like, no, this is serious stuff, and we should take it serious.
Absolutely. I feel like this is one thing that I've been working on even in my business, where I work with women, because I just realized at some point that everything that is on the market is really, is publicized and marketed to women, but it's really not for women. We are like, a lot of plans, even workouts, they are created by men most of the time, for men and then adapt it to women in the sense of, well, you can do less weights, you can do, that's not how it works. Like if a woman is going through a very stressful period of her life, the last thing you want to do is put more stress on her body. So telling her that she can lose weight by doing like an hour cardio or having to like lift weights, like she needs to calm down her system completely. Like you don't want to stress, you don't want to produce more adrenaline into your body. It's like there is this disconnect because men obviously have a very easy life in a way. I'm not discounting that they go through a hard time, but with testosterone going up and down, and it's pretty predictable and easy. We have like a gazillion things happening at the same time. So it's much more complicated than that. Like a man would benefit from actually getting to the gym when they're stressed and push iron because that really regulates the testosterone level with cortisol. But women are more complex than that. And that's something that is totally missing. Yeah. And likewise with diet. I mean, even in the plant-based community, which I absolutely love talking about how we're going to, benefit from the power of plants. Some women, for example, really struggle, especially going through perimenopause and into menopause with grains. Like grains just seem not to work for a lot of women. I'm not saying for everybody because our body types are different, but some grains seem to make it harder for women as they get older to digest or lose weight. And so for them, it's beneficial to move on to other kinds of starches and lots of much more green vegetables and like lighter things, things like pulses, which are high in protein, soy, which has been demonized forever, but it's so good for people going through these hormonal changes because it kind of mimics our estrogen. So it's not in a maleficent way as it's always been pushed. And of course, I'm talking about organic, non-GMO. But there are so many things that we're so not understood. And so we are told to do certain things just like men do it, and it just doesn't work. And so it's great to have that support that is catered to women because we need it. We need to understand our bodies more. We need society to understand us more so that what's available to us in the marketplace is also catered to women. And it's in this case, it's brilliant because it's also by women. So, or by one woman like you. So I think what you created, what Silatha transformed into is really an HR support in a way, because HR sometimes really doesn't know what to do when it comes to managing, the different genders needs in a workplace. That's something that I realized working in banking for a long time.
Yes, no, it's really not created for what women need. And I love your example, the same with sports, and it's with everything. Women have a total different system and need different things to live healthy and feel good. And so we need to, I truly believe that also we want women to be women, like, or whoever they want to be, but be how, like, in business places, it doesn't help a business when a woman starts to behave like a man, because that's what we've seen for a long time. Like, okay, the way to succeed is I'm a woman, I have all my female elements in me, and I'm going to behave now as a man because that's the way I will succeed and get higher in the business. And you see that's also not helping, because what is really helping for the bottom line of a company is when the top of that company, when the leaders of that company are a great mix of all kind of elements that we have. So it's the very male elements, it's the very female elements, and everything in between. And you don't want to have guys and women that look like guys. That's not how diversity works. It's not how the planet looks like, because else there would be only guys on the planet. So there's a reason that there's this balance that is really good for business. And with what we do, we hope that we can give also the courage and the power for women to connect to themselves and realize, what do I need? For me personally, and it can be different from anyone who is they are surrounded by. It's really about, what do you need? And then also, and I love that more and more femtech companies, because there's a lot of women who stand up and say there is nothing on menopause or on fertility or on what kind of food do you need as a woman. It's different. It's not a man and then shrink her a bit. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you Dutch, and I love when you were talking about, the awareness of work in the workplace. So one of the founders of Your Super, like the superfoods, Christelle de Groot, I think her name is. She's also Dutch, and I feel like there is something about the Netherlands where like there's a lot of passion for equality. So she started a campaign called Moon Days, where workplaces are starting to acknowledge that if somebody's going through their cycle, maybe the first and second day can be a little challenging for them to even work, and take them as moon days, which are covered by the company. And people obviously were very worried that now women would always take the extra days every month, but actually it's been shown that they don't, unless they really need it. Like, there's just 1 month that you just have cramps and it's a very heavy flow and it's really impossible to focus and be seated, and you can't deal with your body. It's like, it's painful. Yeah. And women are very respectful of that. And I think this is such a lesson, because I feel like a lot of the times we forget that we can be very responsible, especially women are very responsible, because we have the maternal feeling that comes with, if I drop this baby, in this case, the job, things will go wrong, and I don't want them to go wrong. So there is that, accountability and there's more responsibility with it. So having that support that you can have your moon days if you need them has really translated in women not taking them every month just because. They actually are mindful about it. So they work more and they are more productive. And they're actually more productive if they take that day off and then they go back to work when they feel better, and boom, they can focus.
I totally love her concept.
Yeah.
And I'm totally supportive of it. And you hear it often, like, also women that worry, like, but maybe women will then take just advantage of it. And it's not. Like, because women are innately strong, and women just keep on going and going and going, which is very unhealthy, and they finally burn out and then you lose them. So you need to support women and give them the confidence that once a month they can take that time for themselves. And it's not weird. They are not weak, and they can just take that, because as you say, the next day they are back and they're full on. It's the same with moms with kids. So they work, the most efficient are moms with kids, because they know how to juggle their time. They know they don't have more time. They have to leave at 5. And so they will get everything done in the time before. So it's all about what the output is. And exactly as you said, women are nurturers. They have very huge responsibility feeling. And so maybe on a 1,000 women, maybe one woman will take advantage of it once in a while. So what? But you're helping the other 1,000.
Yeah, of course. And you can't, the exceptions are always existent, but you can't make the rules because of the exception in the negative space anyway, because, and then you're not helping anybody. Everybody suffers. There are lots of men that take advantage of stuff, like they get drunk at work and they go to dinners on, with clients, and they like completely plastered by the end of the evening, and then don't come to work being productive the next day.
Yes, exactly.
I can work with them. I used to work with these guys. And
they take the day off. It's like, oh, I'm sick. It's like, no, you're hangover. Take a day off. Like, that's
the worst is when they come and then they really don't do anything.
Yeah. So, and of course, there's women who do that. But I really believe when you can address the realities around PMS and all the other topics, women are not taking advantage of it. We just don't know enough about these topics to realize what it actually means. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to step a little bit back from the actual concept of Silatha and working for women in corporate, and I will, and not just in corporate, but for women in general, and then in the workspace. I want to just go back a little bit to the beginning, but I will come back to this because I do have more questions about where is heading. But at the beginning of the journey with Silatha, the app was created to be a space where women and men, I guess, could connect to different meditations. Or did you always want to want to target women? Did you always focus on women as a primary?
We actually always targeted
Always.
women.
Okay.
We've been very focused on, like, there was enough out there that was kind of generic, but there was very little on those topics like pregnancy, postnatal depression, and so on.
Okay, so you created it for women. And I kind of remember that because I started getting to know Silatha at the very beginning too. So, and it was a concept of connecting to the meditation through a gem, through a stone, which you call the anchor. And obviously you have this beautiful jewelry on Silatha. And I think Silatha kind of started with this component of jewelry with the meditations. And is that element still in place? And actually, can you also take me to the jewelry, because it was a very specific design, and not a lot of people might know the dorji, but if you can take me through that, I thought that was a beautiful, element to it, and very particular and specific to Silatha, and it's actually part of your logo as well. So.
Yes, so we changed the concept a bit in the sense that we wanted to focus, but all the meditations, when we started, we created one of the main things I realized that are difficult to build a new meditation habit is how to continue. Like, everyone can start for a week, and if it works, they will continue for a couple of days, and then they forget about it. Life gets in the way, and it just disappears. And so what we really looked at, and that's still in place, is how do you build a meditation routine that is lasting? And there's a couple of things, for example, also to start small. So we have a couple of especially in every series, the first meditations are very short, because it's more about getting into the habit than thinking, oh my God, I don't have 10 minutes now. And so it's more, okay, sit down, do it, and get into that routine. And then while in every meditation, we use indeed the dorje as an anchor. We let go of the idea that it has to be a dorje or something like that. But it's really has to be something you carry with you. So it could be a piece of jewelry, like a ring or a bracelet, or I don't know if you can see it, like this. This is the dorje, which is still a beautiful symbol. And you anchor your intention to that dorje, piece of jewelry. Maybe it's even a piece of paper on which you write your intention, because having an intention gives you a direction. What do you want for yourself? Do you want to love yourself more? Do you want to feel stronger in difficult situations? Do you want to be more balanced? What is it? And that's different for everyone. But write it down, speak it out loud. And in every meditation, we are going to repeat that. And by holding that anchor, a physical object you can touch and feel and carry on your body or in your pocket or wherever, you start to train your brain that this is real and this is within you, and this is actually part of who you are. You do love yourself, or you are strong, you are amazing as a person. And especially women have so much self-doubt that it's important to repeat and repeat and repeat. And so every day you have that, but then you go in life, like you end your meditation and you start with your day, if you do it in the morning, and then life will get to you, and then something will happen and you're like, oh my God, is this according to loving myself? Am I responding with self-love? And you can hold that anchor, and it will give you the power back to respond in a way that you want to respond. It gives you this moment to reflect and take a step back and be reminded. And it's kind of like the Pavlov effect. It's very simple. You train your brain in a couple of times doing that when this happens, you'll be reminded that you want to respond in a certain way, or that you want to feel a certain way, which gives a lot of calm and balance. And so it's not only, in one hand, of course, it's a physical object. So in the morning you see it, you carry it with you, you can hold it during a meeting, with whatever happens. No one needs to see it. Like, you can, if it's a bracelet, you can just hold your hands on the table and feel it and get the power from that, because you trained yourself. And so that concept is still within all the meditations, because we believe that's the best way to create a habit. And then on top, we now have this communities where you can do the meditation challenges together, which also helps to be motivated and continue doing it. So yeah, that all together we think is powerful. And then we build the rest around it as well.
Nice. And if people don't know what a dorje is, where does it come from?
Yeah, so a dorje is a very sacred object. So it's slightly different everywhere, but it has 2 crowns, and then there's always some flowers or some decoration, and you will see this very often in a Tibetan monastery or a Buddhist monastery on an altar, and it's actually a weapon. It's to protect you. And it stands for your true nature. And so it's really kind of a representation of who you really want to be. And that's how we linked it to the intention. Who do you want to be? And this is kind of symbolizing you at your best self. And you can carry that around.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to put everything in the show notes so people actually can go and see the line that you have as well, because it is beautiful. And on top of it, it's different gems as well that you build the jewelry around. So the dorje can come with amethyst or rose quartz. And I love that, because different energies are linked to the different stones.
Because every stone has a different energy. So depending on what you want, there's a stone that supports you.
Nice. Thank you for that. So back to the actual work of Silatha, working with women, especially in corporates. I do have a question. So do you see a difference in how HR is responding to your offering in Europe versus the US? I speak to a lot of women, and I remember also in my company. So I was working for an American bank, but I was based in Europe. So it was a very different culture to what my colleagues in the US were experiencing. And, you know, we talked about, like postpartum, even like maternity leave in the UK, for example, is very well catered for. And women can be home up to, I believe, 9 months now, or 6 months at least. In the US, they expect you back at work pretty much immediately. And so there is a difference in how corporations not only cater for their employees in general. So when women and men have very limited time to go on holiday, going on holidays even frowned upon, you know, God forbid you leave the job for a little time to rest. But when it comes to things like maternity, it is obviously very backwards in the US. And so I wonder if you've noticed how your concept can impact this awareness that, for example, mothers need the time to not only heal their body, but actually bond with their baby, and being able to have flexibility, because now they are kind of looking after another human. So, you know, they can't do you have to be at work for 12, 13 hours. Like, you just can't do it anymore. So, what did you notice in that department? I would be really curious to share that.
For me, it's really depending on what kind of company it is. Because some of the American companies are more the younger one in general, who are very open and who want, like, if you go into Google, like the younger companies, they really put their employees first. And so they have actually policies that go way further than what I see in Europe, like freezing your eggs for women, like financially supporting the IVF journey. So some of these companies do a really good job in how can we really be there for our employees throughout their whole life and their journey, knowing that if we are there for them, they are there for us, and they are loyal, and it costs us way more if we lose them. So for me, that's the companies that you describe, we actually aren't talking with, because I guess they are just so far away from what we do, that they don't even want to talk with us, because they should get started indeed with giving proper maternity leave and giving proper sick leave. Because what we see in Europe, we get more and more attention on, like, okay, if you have PMS, take a day off, which is really relevant in the US because you have a limited sick days, where in Europe, in most countries, you could possibly take a sick day, although it would be good for a company to understand, do you take a sick day because of PMS, or because of menopause, or because you're feeling depressed after you gave birth to a baby? Or so to get a better understanding, how can we support? And you see some companies that really make that a priority, and they want to change that. They also change policies. And then there's the companies where they do change policies, but nothing else changes. So you see, okay, like, oh, let's put in place a policy for menopause, but then
nobody implements
nothing
it.
Changes. Like, there's no real proper information. There's no work groups. There's no active, for example, something what we offer. And I think there's still a lack from companies that want to do this. I mean, I think people call it pink washing. Like, oh, we do all kind of stuff, and then having policies and talking about it once a year on Women's Day. They do a workshop for everyone. Yeah. And that's it. And it's like, then do nothing, right? Like, one workshop a year is not going to change anything. You really need to have the CEO who is behind it. You need the board members to understand the reality. And from that, really bring it down into the company so that really the culture can change. So I think it's depending more also on what kind of company, and are they owned by an equity firm, or are they only money driven? And actually they should actually mostly care about their people, because it costs you the most when you lose women, or any employee. Of course, if you lose your talents, especially in a time now where talent is so scarce, this is the most costly for your organization. And 42% of women are burned out. You can ask more and more of them, but you will lose them in the end. So I'm not sure personally if it's country specific. But yeah, there's a big difference. And then there's also a big difference between HR, of course, is mainly women. And I think that should change as well. HR should be men and women, but most of the time it's not. And they immediately understand what we do. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's what we need as a company. And what you see is they bring it to the board, whereas the board is often mainly men, or the CEO is still often is a man. And they're like, I don't get it. They don't, because they don't know what women go through, because they never heard about it. And so they're like, I don't think this is really important. Do we really need this? And that's where still a big gap is. And that's why I think it's amazing that now in the UK, menopause is becoming more and more a topic. I see also, for example, in the Netherlands, there's these sport ladies, these athletic women who start to talk about their performance versus their cycle, because of course the different times of the month gives them a total different performance. And the moment they start to open up about this, it's because a lot of men, of course, read all these sport articles, they're interested in it, and there's no bad intent with most of the guys that, well, at least not the guys I know, but they're reading it and they're like, oh my God, this is so interesting. I never realized that as a sport woman, you have your period and your cycle is actually defining whether you're going to win the gold medal or not, or can define. Whereas for men, of course, that is not something that is
they care about
them. It's like whether they drunk the night before, or they like are good prepared, if they trained well. It's like the things you can do yourself. Your cycle, of course, there are things that are supporting it, but in the end, it's also the hormones in your body that you have no influence on.
Yeah, that's very, very good. I love that. What's the next step for Silatha now? Like, where do you see this going from, now you're entering the corporate space, you're supporting women at work, you're educating HR. What do you think the next stage is going to be? Do you want to keep it online, or do you think you're going to start having hubs within the companies to support them in-house?
Yes, so we do workshops in-house as well, but that's once a month. We also train champions. So at some point, the company actually can take over, that the champions can lead this and they can do the rest online, but they do come together. They still have the coach who is then, and the experts who can come in every now and then. And we are really focused now on the women topics. We want to further extend that. There's still many topics that are very important for women. So we want to grow into that area. And also in the future, we want to, like, how can we fully be inclusive for the LGBTQ community? How can we integrate that? But even maybe man is something that we can look into. What is it for a man who just got a child, and what is changing and bringing these men together? So maybe in the future we will be really fully included, but the half of the people are women. And right now, if I see how far behind, like, women are here, and this is the rest of society. So first, let's bring this equal. Let's give them the support, and then I'd love to further grow the concept into different areas.
Yeah, of course, one step at a time. And I think you went for the demographic that needs the most right now, which has always been, as you said, kept lower in the scale, where, we can actually first find that balance between the two. It's a very interesting concept, because although women are always looked at this, minority that is weaker, we are definitely stronger. Like, society was built on a matriarchal, concept in the tribe. If you look at tribes, and it was just lost with kind of the empowerment of religion taking over, and there's like a whole history behind it. And I guess because we are so powerful as beings, it could be scary. So, keep them small and keep them quiet. But the truth is that things are changing, but they need to change in a positive way, because, as you said, it's not even conducive to a positive outcome to have women that are angry and then become as aggressive as the male energy. You want to have the female energy that stays intact, because that's when better decisions are made, and it's more calm, and it's more thoughtful, and it's more grounded. And it goes on with respecting that we have, a seasons in our body, and we are changing, and respecting that can really allow the person to blossom, to their flourish, rather, to their potential, which, when you look at how women can really do things, is fantastic. And I'm not putting down men and saying we're better. What I'm saying is we are as good, actually.
Absolutely. Women are innately strong. And I love that you went back to the old tribes, and indeed the religion has changed a lot. Like the female cycle, the period of a woman was something holy. It was something like, there was a lot of positivity around that. And with the church, it has changed, and it became very negative, and it became a taboo. And if you look at women and how powerful they are, I mean, giving birth already, like, that shows that women are very strong. And I fully agree with you. It's not that one is better than the other, but women are as powerful and as strong as men, maybe not physically, but the other characteristics that women have. Women are mentally so incredibly strong. And I really believe in the power of the diversity and the power of different elements that we all bring into the game. And make sure that women are really good as they are, because women are so perfectionist, and they doubt themselves, and they think they're not good enough, and it even get worse, of course, with all the social media, with everything you see. And women really should not doubt themselves, and if they feel bad because of their hormones for a day, that is totally okay. And I think the more and more we can talk about how hormones work and how that functions, we can learn and can better also predict what will happen to us. And we can better understand why in menopause you maybe freak out at some moments. It's hormone driven. It's not that you became crazy. In the old, actually, in 100 years ago, some women who had a really bad menopause, or they really struggled from it, they would put in a crazy people home. Yes.
Yeah. I remember asylum. Yeah, I know. I read about it. Or people like women with PMS were, if they were erratic in their, like they were moody or just snappy, there was a process of castration.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the right word, because castration, I think, is for male.
It's for men, I think, but yeah, but
you know what I mean? It's the same concept though. A neutering process, because they thought that would balance out it's crazy. Thank God that science has evolved. Jeez.
Yes. So, and I think now it will evolve more and more. There's more attention to it, and people realize, oh my God, we're so behind.
Yeah.
We know so much. We can go to the moon and back. We can go into space, but we know nothing about the female body. Isn't that ridiculous? And so I'm convinced that this is going to change, and that will be so good for humanity and for everyone. So really looking forward to all those changes happening.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being on the driving seat of a good movement. So brilliant. Thank you, Veronique.
Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing these great stories with the world.
My pleasure. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Veronique, and thank you everyone for staying on for this episode. I hope you got a lot out of it, just as I have, and I really feel that this is a great app to have in your arsenal. So if you haven't looked at it yet, please do check it out. It's a beautiful place to find every meditation you possibly need as a woman. And I promise you, it's really a great place to start, because those meditations are easy to follow. They're very practical. So even if you are just not very good at focusing, the coaching into the programs will help you build up. So you can always have somebody guiding you through your breath and really just grounding, and it's a beautiful experience. Plus, you get the community aspect of it, so it's amazing. Okay, if you like this episode, you know what to do. Rate us, share, and make sure you give us a thumbs up so that we can keep on growing, and I'll see you next week.